Hi, I'm Cheryl. I'm collections curator here at Native Seed Search. Let's save some tomato seeds. So we have got some Chiapas wild tomatoes here. They're very tiny little cherry tomatoes that we've grown. We have harvested these from about 30 or 40 plants. This is our last little bit of our harvest. We've got tomatoes that are nice and red ripe, which is what you want to do for sure in order to be saving fully healthy seeds. You may not have 30 or 40 plants to save from. You would want to try to get at least 5 tomato plants of the same variety to save seeds from. You certainly can save from just one plant, but you'll have better genetic diversity and a healthier seed over years of seed saving if you collect from at least 5 plants. So the first thing we want to do for processing these tomatoes is put them into a container. And the point of this part of our process is to expose all the seeds that are inside these tiny little tomatoes. So what I'm going to do is just squish them all up. And you can wear gloves to do this if you want to, but you don't have to. So we need to get all of the little seeds exposed. And you can say that this is a waste of good tomato flesh, and it is, but that's what we're here for, is to save seed. Now, if you have larger tomatoes and you want to be able to use the tomato flesh as well as saving the seed, you could just cut those tomatoes in half across the middle and then squeeze the seed out into a container as I'm doing here, and that will do the trick as well. So I've been working at this for several minutes to try to get all these little tomatoes popped open, and now we have a nice gushy mess. And the next part of our process will be to ferment this gushy mess. And the reason that we do that is that tomato seeds have a special chemical protection inside the tomato, a little gel sac that surrounds each seed, and that's what keeps them from germinating and sprouting while they're inside the tomato, which would not be good for anybody. So what we have to do is get rid of that little gel sac, and we do that by fermenting. So we will put a little bit of water on top of this just to make sure that it doesn't dry out over the next couple of days. It can take 2 to 3 days to do this process, and so I just want just a little bit there to keep it again from drying out. We're going to put a lid over this and let it set in a warm place, not a hot place like outside in Tucson in the summer, but just a warmish room temperature place, and we'll show you what happens. It's kind of like magic. All right, it's been 2 days and we are ready to go on to the next step of our process. We are working with really tiny tomato seeds, and so it didn't take very long for them to go through that fermentation process. If your seeds are bigger, it could take up to 3 or 4 days. You can certainly stick your hand in and pick out a few seeds and feel them. If they're still really slick, you will need another day or so to ferment. But if you feel that kind of fuzzy roughness, which is the natural texture of a tomato seed, then you are ready to move forward. So what you need for this next step is access to water. You are going to need a bucket and a sort of a fine screened sieve, and you'll need a pillowcase or some fabric to dry your seeds on. Okay, so if you have some mold developing on the top of your tomatoes, that is just fine. We really don't have very much at all. Sometimes there'll be an actual, whole layer of mold, and the first thing you want to do in that case is scrape that off and throw it away. We don't have that, so we are just going to go ahead and add some water to this mess and start stirring it up. We want to loosen up the last of the seeds away from the chaff. And then you can just, since we have a sort of transparent thing, you can watch the seeds actually sink down to the bottom. So we want to give them a minute or so in order to be able to do that. And then we'll just start pouring off some of the chaff, or the yucky stuff, if you want to call it that, off the top. As you can see, there's still seeds in the bottom, and we poured off quite a bit. Now we're going to add some more water so we can continue to remove the tomato flesh. You will notice that you may have some seeds pouring off with the flesh. Those are most likely seeds that are just not healthy. They don't have the weight to sink to the bottom. So we're going to repeat this process over and over again until we have clear water. It might take, I don't know, 7 or 8 times, depending on how many seeds you have, and whether you mixed all the flesh in with the water as we did. If you just squeeze the seeds out of the larger tomatoes, you may not have to go through this process quite so much. All right, we are going to put our seeds out onto an old pillowcase here. I'm trying to get them all out up there. And I want to spread them around as much as I can. This will help us to be able to soak the water out with the rest of our cloth. And I'll just fold that over, we'll press down and soak up as much of the water as we can, because we want these to dry as soon as possible. And then I'm going to put them out onto another cloth that is dry. Just shake them out onto a dry cloth so that they won't be laying on a wet cloth. Shaking onto our dry cloth. And again, we're going to spread these out as much as we can. Since they have that fuzzy texture to them, they are going to want to clump together. So you just want to try to break up those clumps. And you could come back in in an hour or so and break them up some more so that they can dry quicker. As you can see, we've got some little tomato tops in here. Those will easily be picked out when the seeds are dry. Okay, almost done. So we're going to let them there. In Tucson, it'll only take 24 hours or so, or even less, to dry out, and then we'll put them out on a tray and leave them there for a few days so they can get fully dry. Be sure to label your seeds, and once they're dry, you can put them in an airtight container, and they'll be ready for you to plant when you're ready. All right, thanks y'all. It was fun saving tomato seeds with you.